He was a very thoughtful person, communicated really well, was friendly, had good relationships with everyone. We talked about, issues that are, say with capitalism or with the healthcare system or with housing or the food systems. It wasn't, anything specific. It wasn't like he had an axe to grind or he was even upset or angry about a particular issue.
Luigi Mangione's roommate describing his friend, Mangione, now in police custody, but he didn't go quietly, struggling and yelling at police officers who led him into a Pennsylvania police station. Good morning and welcome to the second hour of First Edition only on Newsmax 2. I'm John Burnett.
And I'm Krisha Lenzo. It's Wednesday, December 11th, and we were hearing from the former roommate of Luigi Mangione. And the question remains, and we'll get into it later with our panel, but what happened? How did he potentially, of course, he's a suspect, but all evidence is pointing to the fact that he's a cold-blooded killer. How did this happen? These questions are important because it leads to motive and also his mental state, which leads to the charges. New York, of course, is trying to extradite him, and this is going to be an important part of that. Absolutely.
So let's bring in our political panel to break it all down. We're joined today by Melanie Collette. She's a former vice chair for the Federation of Republican Women in New Jersey and the host of Money Talk with Melanie. And joining us also is Theron Bond. She's a Democratic strategist. Welcome back to First Edition, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning. So I think a really disturbing, there's so much that's disturbing with this story, but a part of this story that is really unfortunate is many Americans are hailing Luigi Mangione as a hero, Melanie. I've been seeing all sorts of posts on social media, lauding him, also making fun of the situation. Your reaction to what's occurring as to people praising him?
It's first of all, it's sick, and I'm not even I was going to say borderline demonic, but I'm just going to go ahead and say demonic to think that the execution of a CEO is something to be rejoiced over. Murder is never something to be rejoiced over. And it also speaks to the lack of critical thinking of a lot of people on social media to think that there's some connection between murdering a CEO and the things that maybe need to be corrected in the United States healthcare system. It's really sick and disturbing.
I'd say, because I've actually saw, and analyzed some of these posts, and a handful of the people I actually knew. One person is actually a lawyer, and then other people are just everyday common people. At least about a third of the comments actually hailed him, as you mentioned, Krisha. So Theron, what does that say about our society?
What it says about the society is that there are extreme conditions that people are living under and extreme measures that they are willing to go to get the public's attention. This is an extreme measure. We can debate all day long about whether it's right or wrong. We can debate whether he used a silencer and that be right or wrong, whether the fact that he killed a CEO, whether that's right or wrong. But the reality is that what he did was bring attention to significant disparities in the healthcare system that were otherwise going unnoticed. And if you have ever fought a potentially terminal illness, if you have ever had a family member fighting to get prescription drugs for less than thousands of dollars, then you understand the mental state that he was going through when he said, these are the healthcare disparities that I am experiencing, and this is what I'm going to do. Now, does that mean everybody needs to go cap a CEO? Absolutely not. But what it did was kickstart a conversation that should have been held quite some time ago. And I 100% understand what it's like to fight some of those healthcare disparities and feel like you have zero options.
That's interesting. It's interesting that you use the term cap. Interesting. Okay, cool.
Melanie, to that point, the media, of course, has also been following him very closely. Do you think that it's almost, potentially egging more people on to do something similar? He's lauded, as we've been saying. Could this lead to more copycat type situations?
I think it can, and as long as we have people like my fellow panelists saying that there's a debate as to whether or not it's right or wrong to murder someone in cold blood in the streets, as long as there's a debate
as to whether or not that is right or wrong, we have a problem. I'm not saying that there aren't any problems in the healthcare system, but if we have to debate whether or not it is right or wrong to murder someone, then we have a bigger problem at hand. The United States has plenty of ways to voice your concerns, your problems, your protests when something is wrong in this system. And murdering someone in cold blood in the streets of New York City is not one of them. He has a wife, he has children, he has family, he has people who care about him. And even if he didn't have all of those things, he's a life. He was a person, a living, breathing human being, and there is no debate whether or not that is right or wrong. And anybody in the media who says that that's up for debate is highly problematic, in my opinion.
You know what, Theron, the situation is, and I'm not saying that no attention should be on United Healthcare. However, when you look at the healthcare system, it's the employers who pick plans, who decide how much to actually pay for the plan, with a smaller premium coming from each individual employee as they select. So why is it more voice or more pressure placed on companies to contribute more money to the healthcare plan that they choose and negotiate with the healthcare companies?
Because the top of those companies, CEO status, other C-suite, other managerial and director level status folks, they set the tone. They know what they market and how much they make available. They also know that when these companies select them, what they have offered, what they have decreased, and what they are offering. Many people have had to change their plans year to year based on what a particular company chooses to lessen as far as what they are offering to a particular company and thus to employees. They also know that when that person goes into the doctor's office and they have to get something approved by that insurance company, that's not the employer that approves it. That's the actual company itself. And if the CEO who's at the top of that food chain sets the tone that says we will not approve a set of things under this list or based on these circumstances, despite how sick a person may be, despite how few options a person may have, then that's where we have become tone deaf in the insurance field and the healthcare related fields and have valued profits over people. And that should never, ever be the case.
That's a long-winded way of not answering my question, which is not about the insurance companies, but by the other companies that engage those insurance companies. Namely, those other companies that engage them, why not put more pressure on companies to allocate more financial resources? So any average person at home, when they select insurance of any kind, they actually determine what their premium is based upon the coverage. So likewise, companies can do the same thing. Well, you know what? We want to put a little bit more here, a little bit more here to make sure our employees are protected. And the insurance companies, just like the average person would do in terms of select their plan, then the insurance company will say this is how much it will cost, and then those companies can contribute more and make it less of a financial burden on their employees. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, that assumes that a person, A, can afford the insurance options that are provided by their employer, and if not, that they have options for secondary insurance, which many people do not. And this is also only primarily applicable to an employee of full-time status. What if you can only get part-time work at a particular company? Then guess what? You don't even have access to those benefits. So it goes far past the company and what they provide to employees, which, yes, is problematic in some cases, whether they pay into it or not, because many companies used to pay 100%, but now they only pay 90 or 80. I've even seen as low as 60. But beyond that, they're going off of the options that they have presented to them by the healthcare companies. The healthcare company is the top of it. The company is the company by the employee is the middleman, and the employee, who's the bottom feeder, is the person that's getting left out.
You know, I love you, Theron, but as the old folks used to say, I'm going to learn you in terms of the insurance company.
Oh, I know
offline.
firsthand from myself and my mother's journey through the insurance company, and I've had to sit and wait 2 to 3 hours to get something approved that should have been second nature to do so. So I'm speaking from direct experience.
But just
So am I.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's clearly problems with healthcare in general in this country, and of course the insurance industry. But to Melanie's point, it does not condone any of the actions that we saw, as well as the rhetoric in the manifesto. But a lot of questions remain about this case and how we even got to this point. But pivoting to politics, President Biden is said to be facing mounting pressure from Democratic lawmakers to extend even more protections to immigrants ahead of Inauguration Day, 40 days away. Mass deportations, apparently, as we might have suspected, giving the Democrats plenty of anxiety, Melanie. We do know that Tom Homan is set to meet with Eric Adams, and Eric Adams seems to be getting more on board. But a lot of the other Democrats still not sold as to the fact that we need to deport these migrants.
And it's such fake anxiety, in my opinion. They really are. The media is doing the American people and illegal migrants, for that token, a disservice by suggesting that Tom Homan and President Trump are going to be, dragging just any old people who are here illegally out into the streets and throwing them out of the country, when we know that that's not the case. There's over 1 million people who are here illegally who have deportation orders that have not left the country yet. They're going to address those first. They're going to address the criminal aliens first. Donald Trump has said that he would be open to negotiating something as far as the DACA migrants. So, this fear is fear mongering. They're always the ones to talk about the right is fear mongering, when I really think the left is fear mongering here, and it's not as big of a concern for an illegal person who is here laying low and behaving themselves, so to speak.
Theron, the thing is, I'm gonna put you in the hot seat, not because I know that you love it, but I know you can handle it. So when you look at the results, whether you talk about suburban areas, rural areas, or urban centers like, New York City and Chicago, Democrats are frustrated with the resources going to the illegal migrants. Whether you talk about the thousands in debit cards, whether you talk about the free food, the housing, medical care, crowding our schools, people are fed up. So why haven't Democrats started listening to voters? Because the election was clearly a mandate, even from the left.
We need a whole separate show to talk about why Democrats didn't listen to voters like they should on so many issues. But when it comes to illegal immigration or mass deportation or anything that President-elect Trump has indicated he's going to do with the help of Tom Homan, there's one thing to say somebody is fear-mongering, and there's another thing to face a scary reality. The reality is that Tom Homan has said he is okay with separating families. The reality is that mass deportation carries a price tag of just under $11,000 for the total process per person. And guess who has to foot the bill? We all do. So is that something that's economically and financially reasonable for us to do at this time, despite the fact that President-elect Trump said that he was going to be decreasing costs for all Americans in this country? However, we do need a process that is refined when it comes to immigration in this country. Mass deportation may or may not be the way to do that, but we have to have a process that Americans can understand. And what Democrats have to do is, if we hear a good idea that makes sense, is we have to honor that and figure out how to make it work and how to explain it to our base. And that's something that Democrats as a whole have not done, whether it's talking about what our side is doing or talking about what the other side is thinking about doing.
Well, just to push, go ahead, Melanie.
No, I was going to say it's amazing to me that now all of a sudden the left is concerned about how much it costs when they weren't concerned about how much it costs when we were providing them food, how much it costs when we were providing them with hotel space, which, by the way, if you visit any of the places like New York City where the hotels are taken up, folks like me have to pay way more. Nobody cares about that when you come to stay in New York City. Nobody cares about how much it's costing the schools to provide bilingual teachers and bilingual aides and more special services. Nobody cares about that. But all all of a sudden, when we talk about deporting people, now we care about how much it costs. Not to mention just the general cost of the fear and lack of safety that we have because of so many criminals that have been let into the country because the migrants have been unvetted. So if we want to talk about costs, there's plenty of costs to go around. We're not going to sit here and say that now we're cost conscious when it comes to illegal immigration, when we're talking about putting these people out of the country when they should have never been here in the first place.
Right.
It seems
When
like
you talk about specific funding in specific states, it sounds like a states' rights issue. So maybe it needs to go back there too.
interesting. Well, the thing is, Democrats, the woke Democrats, are still sleeping.
Define woke for me, John.
And still,
I've been waiting all day to say that. Define woke. Give me the definition.
oh, you know what? In your words, we need a whole nother show to actually talk about
Maybe we do.
your wokeness. But speaking about sleeping, Joe Biden losing yet another battle with the teleprompter. Take a listen.
And one of the things that's going on here, they just turned off my. I'm going to go on. I lost the electricity here. But anyway, one of the things we found is that, we invented the computer chip, size of the tip of your little finger.
I mean,
What
is
are
he
you
saying?
talking about? Theron, the thing is, when you look at Biden, it's not just the prompter. All his years of experience, he should be able to wing the speech, because if you're the president of the United States, we don't want a president on a prompter. We want a president to be in strong command of the issues. What say you, Theron?
As someone who's written many speeches for many people, it always helps to have a hard copy, and forever I will have a hard copy. And the way I train people in the media to speak, I train them to be able to understand and really feel whatever it is that they're saying. So should anything happen electronically or otherwise, that they can keep going. And so that's a testament to who President Biden has around him, preparing him for these things, and also potential signs of his additional mental decline. And there are very small signs that continue to show. And it's sad to see at this level, but he's the outgoing administration, and President-elect Trump is on his way in. So.
Yeah, I think it's more than small signs, though, Theron. I think these are massive, massive red flags. Melanie, I mean, with respect to his fumbling through this speech, I mean, he's fumbled through the presidency.
He has, and we have an entire month left of his presidency. I understand that he's on his way out, but every single day that we have a leader in the United States is super important. Here in New Jersey, we have drones that the FBI has no idea where they're coming from, could possibly be foreign actors for all we know. And this guy is the president of the United States who cannot make it through a speech. I feel badly for the fact that he is going through some type of age-related decline, but I also am more concerned about the United States, the citizens of the United States, who has this as their leader. Clearly just not sharp, not on top of his game. And it's not the people around him who were elected, he was. And that's who we rely on to make the important decisions and to protect and for the protection and safety of the American people. So to be honest, it's just very, very concerning that this is the case. But then again, Kamala Harris is the vice president. So here we are.
Well, you know what? I don't need a teleprompter to say this. Both of you are a sight for sore eyes early in the morning. And hey, Melanie, I see you with the hair over one collar, so you can over one shoulder, so you can see that collar popped. Okay, I hear you. Melanie, Collette, Theron Bond, thank you for joining First Edition.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.